and today's session is on political institutions and political processes. When we talk about political institutions, we're talking about institutions that are political. So that is why the adjective is political institutions. So institutions that are political and processes that are political. So processes, political processes and political institutions. And here we're going to look at the following. So here we're going to start by defining political institutions. So here, the title here is the framework of the state. The framework of the state. That is how the state is designed in terms of political institutions. So the first one is the established structure, framework, and the rules that dictate how power is organized, exercised, and constrained. So here, the core concept, the main concept we're looking at is the established structural framework and rules that dictates how state power is organized. So the rules or framework that rather influence how state power is organized. How do you organize state power, and how do we practice it? That is, how do you exercise it, and how state is organized, exercised, and constrained. How state is constrained. That is stopped from progressing, stopped from going through the right political channel. So here, we also look at the formal institutions which are officially sanctioned, the officially accepted, codified frameworks. For example, we have the written constitutions, we have legislatures, we have electoral laws, and judiciary. So we already talked about constitutions. So legislatures are the laws that are um, made in the parliament. Electoral laws, there are laws that are governing how we choose our leaders, that is how we vote. And the judiciaries, these are the judges at the law court. And we have the informal institutions. So the formal institutions are the ones that are sanctioned, that are codified, the ones that the Constitution directly mentioned, and they are the written constitutions. No, sorry. They are the ones that are backed by written constitution, legislatures, electoral laws, and judiciaries. But the informal institutions, they are the unwritten rules. So the unwritten rules, norms, and traditions that heavily influence political behavior. You know, one of them is clientelism. Clientelism is a very broad topic, but I'm not going to explain that much because it's going to take our time. Clientelism, in a short explanation, is what we refer to as vote buying. You know, if you go into the normal political space, we call it vote buying. That is when Mr. Kaiser wants to become the president of Myanmar. He comes and he gives people some money to induce them, to influence their decision in voting for him. We call it clientelism. That is to say, you are a client of the one who is seeking political power. So he sees you as a business, a customer. He brings a kind of an idea, or then you give, or he gives you money to buy into his idea or to be on his side. So that's why we call it clientelism. And that's where money is given, or some awards are given, monetary or non-monetary, just so people vote for political leaders. Then we have the traditional authority structures. That is the traditional authority, that's the chiefs. I don't know how you guys have them. Does anyone here have any idea how you guys have your traditional society organized? Here in Ghana, we have the chiefs. The chiefs are what we call the tribal leaders, and they have some kind of power over the tribe that are under them. So if you don't mind, can you tell me how the Rohingyan traditional authority is, structured? Who can tell me? Yes, if you go to countries that do not have tribes, they might have what we call the family heads, the extended family heads. So they are the leaders. If you go to Arab countries too, we have what we call the, you know, the tribal leaders, and they don't do clientism. They do what we call wasta. Wasta is when people bargain with the political leadership for opportunities in exchange for votes. So if you don't mind, can you tell me how the Rohingyan society or the Rohingyan traditional societies are organized? Yes. Yes, Mr. Momin Yassin, can you tell me?
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum
Uh,
salam wa rahmatullahi wa
yeah,
barakatuh.
you are well. It is actually uh, a great thing that how our society is uh, ruled in by society in our country or in this game. Uh, from my perspective, I want to say here is while we were in Myanmar, our in a society there is a leader. It is in our language called shomas. Shomas
Okay.
means it is a society
Mm.
which is ruled and organized by a person through selection. For example, who is in that society, who is influential, who is educated, who is uh, who is who has the knowledge of Islamic knowledge, like and if anyone commits crime uh, uh, to and pose harms to anyone, then he will be punished like I think very it is not punished severely like the government laws, but it is like something for example communication is cut off with him and no one contact with him like that, sir. What this is what I want to share.
Okay, thank you very much. So what did you say the name of the leader?
I think it is mohalla. Mohalla, I think mohalla means a society, and
Hmm.
later we call it gonsong.
Gone song. No, you mentioned that in every society you have you mentioned the title. What's the title? You mentioned something like, is it Shona or something like that? I remember exactly what you mentioned. Like you mentioned the name of the traditional authority in the society.
Yeah, mohalla. I think
Really? Okay.
mohalla.
Okay. Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Mumin, and that's a very good one. Um, Okay, so now, then after that, we have what we call the gentleman's agreement in Parliament. Where you know what the Parliament is. The Parliament is where representatives of every county, constituency go to enact laws for the state. So there is something we call the gentleman's agreement, the gentleman's agreement in Parliament. That is to say, these are things that, they follow, but they are not written, you know, in the Parliament. And sometimes, even outside Parliament, you have laws that you don't make uh, them available, available in written forms. You make them, you understand each other and you act accordingly, you know. All right. And now, um, we have what we call the electoral systems and rules of the game. The electoral system, that is where the voting comes in. So here, the title we've been looking at is translating preferences into power. I've only told you last week when we met. Whoever has power today is powerful because of you. So you choose who represent you and you give them the power. For example, I'm a criminal. I kill people. I'm a murderer. But then I participated in an election. And after we win power, then I say, oh, you cannot prosecute me, even though I'm a killer, because I voted for you. Because the consequence, say, of voting for people is that when you vote for them, you give them some power. And with that power, they will, rule you, even if their decision doesn't favor you. Do you get it? So here we have the way called the majoritarian and the plurality system. Majoritarian or the plurality system, that is first past the post. First past the post. So here, the candidate with the most candidates, the most votes is in a specific district wins. So if you have a lot of votes, for example, I want to be the governor of a certain, area. What happens is that I win the votes because I have the majority. Do you understand it? So here it tends to produce two-party system and a single party majority government. So we know that we have a lot of political power, political parties in America, in many countries, including Ghana. We also have a lot of political parties, but it has always been the case that NDC, NPP, that is in Ghana, are the majority. Like they are the dominant political parties. You understand? It is either NDC wins or NPP wins. That's what you get in the majoritarian system. Then we have what we call the proportional presentation, that is the PR. Here, seats in the legislature are allocated geographically or nationally based on the percentage of the vote of the percentage of the vote a party receives. So here we don't deal with the majority of or the number of votes you get. We're talking about the number of seats you get. And the seat, for example, let's say we have three places. The first place has 200 people, and I win the election there. 200 people, Mr. Kaiser has 120 and I had 80. But in the second place, it has like 1,000 people. Mr. Kaiser wins, no, I win um, with more than 500 votes. And Mr. Kaiser has like maybe 400. So remember, he won the first one with 120, and he has one seat. And I win the second one with 500, more than 500 votes, and I retain the seat. So he wins the third one with, let's say, in the third one, they have only 40 people. So 40 people, he wins with like say 38 votes. So his total vote would be somewhere around 140, here about or thereabout, sorry. It means that he has two seats and I have one seat, even though I have the majority vote. So here we have what we call the proportional representation. We allocate them based on the number of seats that people win. Now, so we have the political parties. What are the political parties? The political parties are the vehicles of mobilization. People usually ask, why do we need political parties? Why do we need political parties? We need them to mobilize people. What is mobilization? To bring people together under a certain, aim or a certain, goal or ambition. I'm going to give you an example with, Mr. Momin Ali Yassin. He brings together all Rohingyans across the world in diaspora, okay? All Rohingyans in diaspora. and he asked them, to listen to him, follow him, and help him achieve a certain aim for all Rogerians. But his party's, his political party's name is MMM. That is Moomin Majority Members, for example. Moomin Majority Members. So all these people come together. But who brought them together? Moomin. But he is not the political party. He is not the reason people have come together. It is rather the aim that political party uses that mobilize these people. So that's what we call the political party and mobilization. So they mobilize, the political parties mobilize people. So here, political parties aggregate public interest, recruit political elite or elites, then form government and structure electoral choices for voters. So what happens here is that they bring people, they, kind of give them some kind of explanation as to what they want to happen, and people follow that idea, and they um, they feel identified, or they think they identify with that idea that the political party is trying to sell to the people. So evolution of parties, where do parties come from? So in the past, we have the mass parties, people came together in religious groups. We have a lot of the labor unions, people who maybe are farmers, they come together, the Farmers blah blah association, later they form political parties. In some other countries, we have the tribal, parties, people coming together under one tribe, seeking some kind of power to rule over the whole place. And now we have what we call, later we have what we call the cartel parties or the catch-all parties. They are modern parties that broaden their appeal to the center to win electoral elections. So they often rely more on state funding and media than grassroots members. So media does a lot of advert for them. The TVs, the radios, the social media, that is to say, TikTok, Facebook, and the rest. They rely on them to garner the support of the people. And what we have here is the executive legislative relations. And that here we're going to compare institutional systems, executive legislative. If you guys remember, Nur Hassan, do you remember what executive means? What is executive? Mr. Nur Hassan, are you here? All right. So in the absence of Mr. Nur Hassan, can someone tell me the meaning of executive and legislative? Yes, executive and legislative. Yes, Mr. Mohammed Solim.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, wa alaikum salam. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The executive and the legislative are the main branches of a government, and the
Okay.
legislative make the laws. Executive um, implement the laws.
So the legislative make the law and the executive implement the law. Succinct. Very good. Thank you very much,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Salim, and that is true. So we talked about it. So what is the relationship between executive and legislative here? How parties interact. So here we have the two-party systems. Two-party system where only two political parties rule the state. So here power alternates primarily between two major broadly appealing parties. So we have in the United States, we have in the UK, we have in Ghana, we have in Nigeria, we have in other states, two political parties, where we call the two-party systems. And we also have the multi-party system. So three or more parties have a realistic chance of holding power or forming a coalition. So here, two or three or more political parties have a realistic chance of holding power. or forming coalition, for example, Germany and Israel. And they promote broad representation, but can lead toward instability. What we have, what we call the proliferation of political parties. For example, in some countries, you have like 40 political parties that are seeking to rule or win elections to rule, a settlement or a geography or geographical area of people less than 5 million or sometimes 10 million. So how is it possible? It brings a lot of chaos sometimes. So we have what we call the dominant party system. That is, multiple parties exist and compete, but one single party consistently wins election and controls government over consecutive decades. So we have Japan's LDP, South Africa's ANC. ANC has been a very long, a very old party, of course, that seeks or has sought political power for a very long time and had always won. And Japan's LDP has also the same situation. So the dominant party system, that is, it doesn't matter how many political parties you form, only one party will win. We have different kinds too. Some of them are not even good. Anything good to write home about. All right. Now, here we have the political processes and citizen participation. So here we are engaging with the states. What happens here? Political socialization. The lifelong process by which individuals form their political values, influenced by family and education, media, and significant historical events. So here, what happened is that the kind of family you come from, the kind of education you receive, or the media you align with, or historical events that rule your life, of course, influence your political socialization. For example, maybe you might come from an elite family. And I would be interested in any political party that, has elite or elitists at heart. So that's my orientation. Or my family had been, persecuted or had been haunted or there had been political, scapegoats. So I would love anything or any political party that seeks to, fight against that political party that haunted my family. You understand it? That is how family influenced it. So conventional participation too, that is routine, institutionalized behaviors like voting, joining a party, or contacting an elected representative. So one is either you do that with political socialization, shows your family and everything and how they influence your decision making in politics, or the conventional participation. That is when kind of a routine. That is, you institutionalize behaviors like voting, joining a political party, or contacted an elected representative. Sorry. So we have the unconventional participation. That is non-routine. Sometimes disruptive actions like mass protests, boycotts, strikes, or civil disobedience. I know you guys understand the meaning of what protest. Yes, Mr. Moment, do you have something to say?
Sir, thank you very much for
Yes,
actually, I feel very sorry for interrupting you in
no,
the middle of the session.
no problem.
Actually, I want to deeply understand this political socialization.
Mm,
Uh, for example, political socialization means it is uh, a political family that is which is running the country by their family one by one, like that. That
no.
I mean, for example, Sri Lanka. It was ruled by family,
Mm.
or I think is that or different?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mumin Al Yassin. That's a very beautiful question. Actually, I think you totally misunderstood it. Here, we are looking at how we engage with the states, like how we interact with the states. How do we interact with the states? What's the relationship between us and the state? We interact with the state through political socialization. Now, how do we do political, like, how do you socialize politically? By the lifelong process by which individuals form their political values, like how you select your leaders or how you have your political orientation. You understand it? Like your political philosophy, like where does it come from? Sometimes it is influenced by family. For example, if my family was once killed by a dictator or the military government, of course, I'll grow up hating military government and wanting a serious democratic one. So that is what is going to influence it. So influenced by family. So that political socialization of mine is influenced by what? Family. Or education. I've been to school. I'm a lecturer. I'm a teacher. I'm a nurse. I'm a medical doctor. Of course, I think I belong to a certain political orientation and not maybe a government of, deceit and maybe, the military government, for example. Then the media, maybe you listen to radio, TV, or you listen to a certain kind of a program on TV or whatever. They also influence our political socialization and significant historical events. For example, something happened to you. One of them is a typical one is what happened to you, the Rohingya Muslims. Of course, the lady or that devil who, who massacred the beautiful souls of Rohingya is now imprisoned by the same soldiers who sanctioned. Of course, she said, according to according to literature, she was the leader, but then those who did the killing are the ones who have imprisoned her. Do you understand it? So in your case, there is no way you would love the one in prison or you would love anything that has to do with military government because they are one of the reasons you guys are suffering. So your political orientation or socialization is being influenced by this. So the conventional participation, I don't know whether you understand, Mr. Mumin Eliasin. Do you get it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, sir.
Very well. Thank you very well. Now, and the next one is conventional. No, conventional, I've already said it. That is going through the routine, voting, joining party. Then we have the unconventional participation. That is non-routine. You do that through mass protest. No, we're not going to accept. Yeah, no, yeah, we want this, we need this. That is mass protest. We don't want this in our political space. We want to change this. We don't want to have this. You get it. So that's exactly what mass protest means. So boycotts. No, we're not going to buy things from this shop, or we're not going to use this. We're not going to engage with this one. We call it boycott. That is not, engaging with something, an institution or a certain service, boycott. Then we have the strike. Strike is when you don't go to work. You don't go to work, you stay home instead of working just to register your displeasure or to make your grievances known to any political head. Now we have what we call the civil disobedience. That is to say, you refuse to obey kind of law in the state as a mean of what engaging with the state. So to show that, for example, in all these cases, one can decide to still engage with the society. You cannot decide to engage with the society by not doing anything. Do you understand? For example, you don't vote, you don't have any political party, you don't have any political socialization, you don't have any influence, family or anything, or you don't protest. Your salary is just, let's say, $1. You don't care. You don't talk with anyone. In this case, you're either crazy or something is wrong with your brain. Because if you don't do any of these things, then it means you don't seek to engage with the state. And anyone who doesn't engage with the state is not a citizen. He's rather a spectator. All right. So I think this link is going to die out soon. So I think we can go to, when we come back, we'll do this interactive session. So we can restart the link and continue again. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, guys, please join again. Yeah, with the same link.
All right. Okay.
I think you okay. You can leave that. You can end the section. Yeah.